Well, hey there, HVAC pros and enthusiasts. Are you ready to take your skills to the next level? The HVACR Learning Network has just launched an exciting new e-learning course, High Performance Heat Pumps. And guess what? We're giving you free access to the first 2 chapters. Whether you're in the field, training for that next step, or simply want to sharpen your expertise, this course is packed with everything you need to understand and master high-performance heat pump systems, especially inverter-driven cold climate heat pumps. And the best part? You can access it anytime, anywhere, right from your favorite mobile device. It's HVACR learning made flexible and convenient for you. So what are you waiting for? Click the link. Dive into the HVACR Learning Network and start your free trial today. Your journey to HVACR mastery begins here.
At Service Logic, we believe the future of the skilled trades lies in training and development. And that's why we created the Edge, a platform dedicated to empowering our greatest assets, our people. From hands-on training to leadership development, Edge is where technicians grow their skills, expand their opportunities, and build lasting careers. Because when people succeed, our companies, our customers, and our industry thrive. This is the Edge. This is the future of the skilled trades.
I chose iConnect training equipment because I already previously had some iConnect training equipment, and I was very pleased with the equipment I had, the quality of it, and pre-designed labs that came with it. So when I expanded it more into their catalog, I decided I wanted to get this refrigeration trainer in my program to expand my program. My experience so far using the TU-155 has been a pretty good experience, especially my second year students, and the light bulb kind of syndrome goes off when you see that little flicker in their eye and they're, oh, I got it. That's what us instructors, what we look for is the I got it moment. And this helps me to the I got it moment with my students, and that's what's my goal to achieve.
We are Daikin, the #1 global indoor comfort provider. Our innovative home and building solutions are engineered with energy efficiency and sustainability at their core, ensuring improved indoor air quality for all. From heating and cooling to ventilation, air purification, refrigeration technologies, and connected devices, we're at the forefront of technology, addressing the pressing challenges of sustainability.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. Did you know the ESCO HVAC show? We are spending some time today hanging out, talking about our industry, talking about particularly labor, and we're joined by Nichole Curl. Nichole is it Director of Training for Chadwell Supply?
The Director of Chadwell University.
Chad, all right. And Nichole was one of the True Tech Tools top 25 most influential educator and trainers at our conference this year. So grateful to be hanging out with a fellow trainer. And Nichole approaches things from a slightly different perspective than we've discussed on the show before. When we talk about training, we talk about preparing students for the industry. We don't always talk about preparing them for things like multifamily, which is where Nichole spends most of her time in working with the multifamily contractors and doing training and education at the distributor level. And so for those that are familiar or remember me from the days, I spent a majority of my time in the training, in distributor training, doing contractor dealer onboarding, doing the industrial apprenticeship programs for AK Steel. And so I didn't have a lot of experience with multifamily. And so I heard a podcast that Nichole did on training people and actually finding the right people and then training those people for those roles, particularly in things like multifamily. And it really, it had a lot of interest, and I thought it'd be a fantastic conversation to share. So we're going to do that today, and I encourage everyone to let us know where you're joining in from. If you have any questions along the way, I'm actually in the office today. We're getting the mobile studio prepped to head down to Skills USA. Be headed down there Saturday. Todd and I will be in the immersive experience zone, which will be out like by the food court. So anyone at Skills USA, make sure to come by and spend some time with us. We'll have a lot of fun tools and toys and HVAC, nerdy, geeky stuff to play with. So I encourage you all to come hang out with us. Nichole, where are you joining from?
So I'm in my home office. I am just outside of the Houston area, north of Houston. Most people in Houston say I live in South Dallas, but it's really not that far. Houston's just that big.
Houston's that big. It is.
Todd, where are you joining in today?
Good old sunny Southern California today. Nice
Excellent.
weather today.
Yeah, what's the weather like there?
It's low 70s, but
Man,
nice out.
it's like 90 here. Yeah, it's a little toasty.
A little toasty.
All right, Nichole, we had some very interesting conversations as we were prepping for this. And I'd like for you to kind of start this conversation. When we talk about hiring the person, training the skills, it's a perspective that I think is very important today because a lot of young minds don't exactly know what they're ready for, what part of the careers they're going to go into. They know that they like the mechanical trades, they like working with their hands. We can find a home for them.
Definitely. I got plenty of homes. So literally, I have thousands of them. So with multifamily, things work a little bit different, right?
Okay.
We hire the technicians and they are quote unquote agents of the owner. All
Okay.
right. So this means that they work on that property and typically only on that property. Sometimes they might cover multiple sites. But that guy has to do a little bit of everything, has to be a jack of all trades, has to know HVAC, has to know plumbing, has to know electrical, some carpentry and drywall skills and just general maintenance, right?
Yep.
So just in, maybe 15, 20 years ago, there was pretty much a maintenance guy a dime a dozen. They were all over the place. You could hire anybody who had the skill could get a job. Right. And so now we're not finding that same level of labor available, right? Just skilled trades across the board. We all know this. There's a shortage in skilled trades. And so it's like, where are we, where are these people going to come from? Where are they going to fill these roles? And so that's where I was like, we got to hire the people. Post-COVID presents a different dynamic too, right?
It does.
So I think, the person who's going to show up to work, that's it. That's the end of that sentence. The person who's going to show up to work, right? Who has a good attitude, who has an open mind, who wants to learn. And it's going to be, because of the skill shortage, a lot of the ones that do have the higher end level skills, they can go somewhere else and find a job and unfortunately make more money than they might make in our industry today.
Sure.
Potentially.
We haven't quite completely caught up, right, with what some of our like-minded industries are offering. So I think, hiring the person that fits our company culture, that's willing to show up to work, that's willing to learn, and then we're going to have to train them the skill. And then, that puts a big burden on employers. How are they going to get them trained?
Yeah, and that's really what is starting to shift within the industry. There was a time when we looked at training as being, you either went to trade school or you learned on the job, and that was really your two options. There wasn't a lot of manufacturer specific training unless you were a dealer. There wasn't a lot of contractors with their own training programs, and that is really starting to explode. It's never really been the focus at ESCO to help build the training programs for contractors and for distributors, but we've had such a demand for that in the last few years. We began doing that a lot, and it showed at our conference. We had a very significant amount of registrants that were recognized as contractor or distributor trainer. We actually had 149 that were registered.
Wow.
And yeah, and 3 years ago, that was a zero.
Mm.
So it shows that growth that we have in the industry. So when we talk about that, though, let's talk about the complexities that we have in training, because now we're starting to see training with different models, right? We're starting to realize that some of our training models are outdated and need to be a little bit focused.
Yeah, we need to refresh.
Tell us
I
a little
think
bit about that.
I think in our perspective, what we see a lot of is everybody thinks what I need is on hands on. Like, give me the screwdriver, give me the wrench right now. Today, that's where we're going to start. And that's kind of where we need to adjust the thinking, and that's where we need to target senior leadership to say, hey, we need to pull back. That's the last thing you need. You need to understand the how, the why, before we start actually working on the what. And, one of the examples and the analogies that I use is when you have a teenager and they're starting to drive, is the first thing you do is give them the keys to the car and say, go figure
Nope.
it out?
Heck no.
That's a good point. I actually, when you mentioned that, I had to go back and actually
Sorry.
start. No, this is perfect. I had this in the beginning and I was like, maybe it'll be better reference later, but it's not. It's so important for us to think about that because we have a lot of training programs that are starting to pop up around the country that are very short-term training programs, right? They're basically like, get your toes wet and then throw you to the beast of the
The
field.
deep end. The deep end.
And in many instances, it's not the right approach. Maybe for some it is. And that's where as educators, we have to find, the interest in the students and then be able to provide the training that goes along with it. Because it is very much like driving a car. Like, let's think about some of those comparisons, or let's talk about some of those comparisons.
Yeah, I mean, I think, before all of our state laws, they might vary a little bit, but every state law, when it comes to getting a driver's license, the first step is you got to understand some of the laws and some of the basics, right?
Yep.
You have to understand what you're allowed to do, what you're not allowed to do. And you have to kind of, learn a little bit about how the vehicle works, right? And then after testing and proving that you understand that skill level, then you're able to get a permit that allows you to start the hands-on experience, right?
Correct.
And that's guided with a professional or, an adult who's been driving for a number of years, right? And then after a certain number of hours of practicing with that guidance, then you're kind of, okay, here's your license. But once you get that license, you're still restricted,
Yeah.
right? A 16-year-old isn't allowed to drive alone with other teenagers in the car. They have certain hours that they're supposed to be driving and not driving after. I mean, there's those are guardrails that are put into place for safety and liability purposes, right?
You mentioned safety here, and safety is a big factor, right? We don't want somebody to go work on uh, line voltage in the lab without having some form of safety. It's very very similar to driving an automobile. So I
Right.
read it
And I
loud
mean,
and clear.
think instinctually as toddlers, right? What do they do when they see the little hole in the outlet? It's the nature. Let me go find out what this is. We don't want to do that. That's why we quote unquote childproof our houses nowadays, right?
Sure.
But there is a level of creating stupidity if we overprotect them too, right?
Mhm.
Because then they never learn, don't touch the stove because it's hot, because
Yeah.
they never got burnt. So I do think that there's a balance there, right? And I do think learning theory and understanding the system of HVAC, because what we have done inherently, specifically in the apartment industry, right, is oral tradition training. It's not been classroom, it's not been textbook, it's not even been simulated. It is, hey, we're out there on the job and I'm teaching, it's a guy that taught a guy that taught a guy that taught a guy. I mean, it's oral tradition. It's passed off,
Yeah.
over the past 30, 40 years. equipment's not the same as it was 30 or 40 years ago,
No.
right?
No,
Um,
actually, Howard brought up a great comment
Yeah,
about that. I'm glad you've seen that, Todd.
I
You know,
saw it too.
we have this conversation quite often when you think about the trades in general, right? Trained gas fitters install gas lines. It's their job. Trained electricians work on electrical. Yet when you get into HVAC, that's a whole different ballpark. Now we're going to be combining all of these things. And without those formal understandings and without that fundamental of how things operate, it's difficult to teach how things operate and then how we service. That's one of the things that we continue to hear from educators is that, we're needing to add all this additional content, but I can't get away from my fundamentals. Absolutely correct. Those fundamentals have to be there. So it's learning to balance the training for the audience, right? Our
right.
student is the audience for the training that we're going to be providing. And Scott, that's another great point. Falls right in line with how do we build our training to focus in on the actual person, right? So Scott is over in Ohio, knows a company that's paying $25 an hour for no experience, just for the right person to get them in the door. And that's really what the conversation is about is who is our audience, whether we are a distributor trainer, whether we are a contractor looking for employees, or we are an educator and we have the students in our classroom. We try to build our training programs to make sure that we can fit that student with the industry around us. Hopefully, we built a strong enough of a program advisory committee that we are making a pipeline of students, but we have to know, like, what does that student really need to be successful when they get into this position? Because it really comes down to what employers are going to be waiting out here.
Yeah. And to that point, we talked about where do we find these individuals? Could be out of high school or, early stages of college, but our good friend, Ty Branham, and he, speaking of advisory boards, he was on my advisory board some time ago and recommended a book. Gen Z is actually very willing and able to work. I forget which book it is.
Absolutely.
And they actually want to work. But there are some bad habits with younger culture. We won't go there, but the fact of the matter is, if they're teachable and they're willing to work, to Scott's point, you know what? That right body, we can train them. We
Yeah, I
really
mean,
can.
my son is a perfect example. I mean, he's just turned 18. He's fixing to graduate high school any minute now. And, he's been trying to get a job for 2 years. Nobody will hire him because he has no experience.
Really.
And so now he is actually, speaking of what Clifton referred to at the beginning, I mean, he has been invited specifically to a manufacturer, and I'm not going to put it out there, but a specific manufacturer, AC manufacturer, is putting kids through a 3-week training program to learn HVAC, and then they're partnering them with companies like Scott referred to that are going to hire these guys with no experience, knowing they got some training through this program
Okay.
and understanding the quality of that program. And
Yes.
so they're willing to start them without that experience. And he's never been more excited to go to school and learn something and to start working because he's been trying for 2 years.
It is intriguing.
It's
But to that point is sometimes a lot of these employers, and I'm not gonna, say everyone, but there's several employees that want that body that's from in 5 weeks to have them truck ready and out on their own. It's not gonna
yeah,
happen. It's not gonna happen.
yeah.
So, which is
Just
why
to
we have
manage
to start.
expectations.
It is. It very much. And it kind of falls into like, what are some of these traditional models? Why do
Yeah.
some fall short? And let's talk about the ones that are becoming successful. And when we look at, like your son that is looking for a different type of program, it's because some of our existing models aren't fitting as well as they could with a particular student. So tell me a little bit, Nichole, about the direction that Chadwell University has taken for training.
So a lot of what we're looking at is, we're just building the program too. I mean, we've had a program for a number of years, but we're kind of just taking a fresh look since I came on. I've been here about a year. So they went from 10 basic classes, right? General HVAC, general appliances, general, right? We have like over 78 different classes that we're offering now. And so we're offering a combination of a live instructor-led virtual classroom and a micro learning. So a very narrow focus for 60 minutes, right? We're going to dive deep into one little subject for 60 minutes, go back to work. But it's live instructor-led. So you've got a subject matter expert there who's able to answer your questions, right? But there's a place for on demand. What if I just, I want to watch a video, I want to power through a PowerPoint, right? Those are good reinforcements. It's good prep work. It's good to prepare you for something so you have a basic understanding. And now we have a lot of simulation programs that are coming up and popping up all over the place. It's great for you to try that the first time in a simulator and virtually. Then, the alternative could be not going home, right? And also to practice, to get that fine tuning. Like, look, we even have, prior to technology development, surgeons practice their surgery on cadavers. They practice their cutting techniques. They practice how they retracted and grasp different components in the body, right? We should be doing this all along. You've got to practice on something that's dead, not live. Well, now that technology is evolving, it gives us more of an opportunity. I'd rather hit something that's on virtual and get zapped virtually than, get knocked out and end up in the hospital. So,
You're speaking my language, and sorry to cut you off, but I really am really, taken in with this, drawn in really much with the virtual. And that's what I do in partnership with ESCO. Is we're promoting Visual 3D Academy to help that dead individual, not dead individual, but dead aspect to be able to be worked on.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I think it's really, really important. And, you may not be aware, but I am working with ESCO as well to incorporate a lot of this into what we are doing with our customers, because why reinvent the wheel? It's already there. I don't need to. It's a great resource. Use it. There's a couple of resources out there, but I think that we're getting better and better, and technology is getting better. It just needs to be more accessible, and it's not a matter of it's not there. It's like just getting the message out there and getting people aware. How do I access it? And then they can start using it. And sometimes people are scared. It can be intimidating to go in. Like, I'm an iPhone user. You give me a Droid, and I am not even going to be able to answer the phone. Okay. So you put me into a new environment, I may not know what to do, right? So it's having that assistance and somebody to walk you through the process and then set you loose, and then you can just, the sky's the limit, right? But I think combining all of these training methods together is really what hits home. I mean, you've got all different types of learning styles.
Right.
Some are going to learn better one way than the other, but everybody can benefit no matter what their learning style is by combining all of these approaches and providing that opportunity for them to seek out what approach they enjoy the most. But I think you got to be flexible. You got to be adaptable. You got to just find ways to find people. I mean, there are people out there that want to work, like you said. They want the work. You just tell them what to do. And I like the concept. Scott mentioned, don't break bad habits. Teach them in the way you want them to do it. Clifton and I had a conversation. There's multiple ways to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I mean, I was on a phone call, FaceTime phone call with my daughter away at college. With my husband and I were talking to her, and she was literally making grilled cheese.
Yep.
And my husband's asking her, "What are you doing now?" Well, what are you doing there? I've never made a grilled cheese that way. I mean, there's more than one way to make a grilled cheese sandwich, right? And I know I've heard this before, about making the peanut butter and jelly sandwich. It's just, or it's Eugene. Eugene uses that.
Professor
And
Silberstein. It's one of the
yes,
writing lessons that he utilizes. And it's very relatable to this conversation. So as a writing assignment, one of Professor Silberstein's writing assignments is how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So when we think about training these students, we have to try to put ourselves in our students' eyes, right? We have to be able to make sure that we're painting a picture that leaves no questions unanswered for them. Because a lot of our students go out into the field and go, what is my next step? How do I connect with the contractor? What other type of training is out here? And when we leave those questions unanswered for our students, we're actually setting them up for failure. So with your programs, you're really looking at a flexible workforce, not catering specifically to HVAC, but all of the fundamentals that would allow someone to be able to learn HVAC and the accompanying curriculums, the electrical side, the
Hmm.
plumbing side,
Yeah.
the things that make that person more qualified when they're actually ready for the field.
Yeah, and I definitely think HVC is a big portion that has been missing for a very long time, right? I think that because of this oral tradition and learning from another guy who learned from another guy who learned from another guy in the field, and none of them ever saw the classroom, we have inadvertently changed and trained and like intentionally trained parts changers.
Exactly.
You know, we don't have diagnosticians out there. And so not having that as part of the equation has been a missing gap. It's, you know, we want hands on, let's go learn how to turn the screwdriver, turn the wrench. And it's like, let's learn what we're doing before, like, why are we taking that screw out?
And to Howard's point, he you know, it's a pretty long-winded one, but we didn't get it all on the screen here. But other trades have much longer programs than HVAC. So, uh, but yet we have HVAC technicians installing the same, you know, on the same gas lines and the same electrical panels. And so there is a need to address uh, the fundamentals before we go and dive into the deep end, as Clifton, you were mentioning earlier.
Well, and I think it's important for us to realize what a successful program looks like, whether it is from a multifamily technician training program coming from a distributor, whether it is a certificate or a degree program from a secondary or from a post-secondary program. What are we trying to do for the newest generations of students? We're trying to attract a person and teach them skills.
Yes.
And so along the way, one of the things that we have to be thinking about that the student, the young mind is looking for that we may not always be building for them is a career pathway. And in doing that, we're setting them up for success, not just giving them a certification, not just giving them a degree, but actually setting them on a career path and showing them what they need to move into some of the next positions. So how do you build your layer of training as they're going through the university?
Well, I think a lot of it is, well, first, I think in general in our industry, they've really gotten away from assessments. It's kind of litigious and HR driven that, you know, it can't really be a condition of employment. Okay, fine, get it. But once they're there, not having an assessment, we have no idea where you are. We don't know where you want to go. We don't know how to build that pathway. If you don't have a starting point, how do you benchmark anything? How do you
Exactly.
mark improvement? And so I think it's really important that we do start looking at assessments again and look at it from a different lens. It's a tool to develop your learning plan and to develop your career path. I think if you know, to the point on the comment that was just you know, thousands of hours are required and you have to work under a master, those are daunting for somebody new. They're like thinking, yeah, I could do that, but it's in their head, that's a million years away
Right.
before I'm there.
Oh, I think we
Making the
lost
money
him.
that I want.
Oh, there we are.
That's not the case in the apartment industry. You don't have to put in all those hours. You don't have to have all those licenses. Now, it depends on your local jurisdiction. There may be some additional requirements, but as an agent of an owner, we have a few loopholes where we can do work on our owner's property as long as it's under the same ownership, right?
Right.
And so I think we want those people to see that pathway. All right, yeah, this is where you may start, and this is where that money might be, but this is what it could be. This is where it could go.
Exactly.
And painting that picture. Okay, so this is where I want to go. What does it take to get there? And we're still building out that plan. You know, I would say most of our 78, 80 classes that we have right now, I'd say the majority of them are what most people would consider that 100 level, right? That,
Yep.
you know, some are a little bit deeper, but we want to continue to build that out as we grow the Chadwell University, and look at that 200, 300, 400 level. And my goal is to be the best in class in our industry and be the go-to training location for everybody to go. And when they go apply for a job, or they're working for a company and say, well, I was trained with Chadwell University, that it has that credibility behind it that says, okay, well, they learned something, right? They got some good training. They got some good information. What I don't want to have happen is they get the wrong information, right? And unfortunately, in our industry, there's a lot of people out there that are in the field training others that don't know what they're doing.
Exactly.
I have 2 positions open right now, 2 full-time trainer positions that I've had open since February.
Yeah. It's a lack of educators as well as it is for technicians. So it is a struggle that we all have.
It's a struggle.
Do you work with any of your local community colleges or high schools? That's a question that we often get from schools, is how do I work with distributors?
We haven't gotten there yet. We do through our local associations. So through the national apartment associations, you have different affiliates throughout the country, right? And all those affiliates do have some relationships with some of these educational institutes, and we are trying to tap in. And a lot of our customers do have relationships with certain trade schools in their area and community colleges. And so we're trying to bridge that gap as well, and we're looking for ways to develop that. But that's on the horizon for us. I think that's probably a year or 2 out, to be completely honest, unless something major happens. I need more resources in place to start working that angle. But I definitely feel that that is a great place to start to attract people to the industry. Years and years ago, I'm going to say 20 plus years ago, I was actually on a committee with our local apartment association, and we went to middle schools, high schools, and talked to them about what careers are available in multifamily. And people didn't know. They didn't know it was an option. I mean, when I fell into this industry completely on accident. I just didn't want to live in my mom's basement. And somebody said, well, if you get a job with an apartment, you can get a discount or free rent.
That's right. They've got rooms.
I had a job the next week and was moving out. I mean, and then I never left. Here I am 35 years later, and I'm still in the industry. And my path took, a lot of different directions. But there is a career path out there. You can make a life, right? And I believe in this side of the business. I believe in educating. I'm passionate, but I saw the technical side, and that's what drew me to continue to stay and grow and learn. And then I began teaching, and that just evolved into this, right? But I think like you said, we need more people that want to do what I'm doing. I need more people that have the technical skills, that have sought it out, that have gotten the formal training, and they want to give back, right? Let's all be honest. This isn't your 7-figure salary.
But it's also not on call. It's also not climbing and crawling every day. There's some benefits to going into education.
Amen.
It's so important that we have these conversations of what is happening in the education at the distributor level and what contractors are looking for, because we are starting to see this partnership happening. Here at ESCO, we always like to say that we're the dysfunctional dating service within HVAC. We help make these arrangements and these partnerships because of things like this. So we have distributor training that is now focusing on specific roles within the industry for jobs that are waiting there. Well, how do we make these partnerships work? As a school, we now have that ability to work with our distributors like Chadwell University, that may be in your back door. If you just start looking around at the different locations, they have a bunch of them, who is trying to build this pipeline of technicians within the industry. And now what we're starting to see is the schools and the distributors aligning with certifications. Tony, that's such a great point.
Yeah.
Tony's an advocate for what we're starting to see now, because we used to have a lot of our trades programs in high school that went away for a long time. That is coming back. It is thriving here in the Midwest. And what we're seeing a lot of is we're seeing schools and the distributor trainers and even contractor trainers utilizing those baseline certifications, exactly like Nichole was talking about. When we start working with things like the HVAC Excellence Employment Ready certifications, those are certifications that are universally aligned within the industry. And so now we can have distributor trainers doing certifications, doing employment ready certifications that the schools accept as transferable credits and vice versa. And so it's a way for us to be able to validate that training that is happening and help build that pathway for our student. And I think that's something that we have lost. And I think that as part of the leadership and mentorship that we are as educators, it's about showing that path, showing that student as early as those middle schools and junior highs and high schools of, do you know, if you don't know what you're doing, but you're working on your own bicycle and your own motorcycle, let's show you some of these paths and come on in. Let me give you some classes to kind of take a peek and see if this is what you like. And so there's a huge partnership that can happen here between our schools and our distributors and our contractors if we're just willing to take those steps and build these partnerships.
Exactly. Couldn't agree more.
Love it. And not to mention that like distributors are my pipeline for equipment. Like scratch and dent equipment sitting in the warehouse of a distributor, they want it to go and you want it. So
Yes, absolutely.
make those partnerships happen. All right. So let's talk a little bit about like career pathways. If someone is coming in, say off of the street, they are just finding that you're doing training classes, like where would you begin? What would be the first thing that you'd want to find out about that student?
Well, and I think in our environment, it's really hard because we're not like a typical school where I've got somebody for a semester or I've got somebody for the length of a program, right? I may only see that person for 60 minutes, depending on what they've chosen to get involved in and how
Right.
involved they want to get, right? So I think a lot of what we're looking at is, from our perspective, I'm looking at specific needs in the industry and knowing where those gaps are and knowing that that information needs to get out there to the field. But I am, and my senior trainers, we are geared towards developing those relationships with our property management companies who are our customer partners to say, hey, how are you guys approaching training? Where are you finding people? What are you doing when you get them? Let us be part of that equation. Let us help you. And so we're able to partner with them and customize out, okay, if you start at this level and you want to go to this level, what are those steps? What does that look like? Because it might be different for different companies. Because, I'd say generally speaking, you're going to start off with some sort of porter or, they're maintaining the grounds, right? Then we're looking at what we call a make-ready tech, and they're pretty much just doing basic maintenance and preparing an apartment for somebody new to move into it. And then you have different levels of technicians. And then, of course, you have supervisors and managers and regionals and different levels of management. So it's important to know what how they structure, each company structures that career path. And look, just because you want to come up the ladder, maybe you might want to hit a top tech level, but I don't want to manage people. I don't want to manage inventory or a budget. I just want to fix stuff. And understanding and having the industry as a whole be appreciative of that person and not be like, well, you don't have any ambition. You don't want to grow. No, growth is learning. It is not necessarily taking the next step up on that ladder. It is learning. And so, understanding there might be diverse career paths. You might go sideways, you might stagnate, but you're still learning. And how do we continuously provide that training for someone who doesn't necessarily want to go to the next rung? Well, there's still plenty of stuff to learn. I don't think we ever. My grandfather, when you stop learning, you're dead. I agree. I just think you got to keep, and I'm naturally curious, and I guess that's what's got me into a role that I'm in. But really wanting to encourage people to continue to grow. And I think that you hear a lot about strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah.
What are you good at? What are you strong at? Figure out how to be stronger. Because that's your natural bent. Let's nurture it. Let's continue to develop it. I'm not saying don't try to get better at all things. But if you're really good at something, keep getting really good. Stay really good at something. Get even better at it.
Cody, I'm glad that you're joining this conversation because this is really why we're having this. Because there is this, I don't know, it's almost a disconnect within the industry. because we hear two completely different sides of the industry. We hear technicians that go, well, there's really not a lot of growth and opportunity where I'm at. And then we hear contractors that are saying, we can't find anyone to fill these jobs. And so it comes down to, where did we get it wrong in the preparation and in these growth patterns? That's what this conversation is about. It's not about, if I build the best program, I'm going to have the most successful students. Well, you could have the best program. If you don't have a good instructor, you're never going to get anywhere. But if you don't have the minds that are interested in those next steps, well, we don't have anything either. So the whole topic was about finding people that are interested in learning and stopping right there. That's the entrance into our industry.
Mhm.
If we allow the person to leave because they get into a place where Cody is at, it's because leadership has failed. So it's up to us to help find those paths. So Cody, where are you at in the country? Because we have options out there for you. We're actually going to be working on a variety of ways to help industry connect with these positions and jobs. I had a conversation today with a commercial HVAC technician, basically job board, that we're going to be bringing into the mix to be able to help connect those. We're like this dating service. We don't want to be the job board, but we want to make sure that you've got the resources for those jobs. Because Cody, I can tell you, in Pennsylvania, let's see, Nichole, you got any facilities in Pennsylvania?
Yep, we do.
All right.
We do.
So this is what we're talking about, Cody. We're talking about wherever you are in the industry, whether you're the technician looking to go to the next level, you're the student trying to figure out what are my options, you're the educator like Kendrick going, there is so much work out here. Let somebody help you. Let me be a mentor to you.
Yeah.
And so it's about us making these connections and getting you in the path. Maybe, Cody, maybe the 2-year program, the college, is not right for you. And that's okay. Maybe you're just in the exploratory where you're like, okay, I'm in HVAC, but maybe I want to do something else. It's the opportunity for us to be building partnerships with career paths, because that's what we do. We don't teach HVAC. If we all just taught HVAC, we wouldn't be building an industry, right?
I think too, where he says, I'm stuck in the field.
Mm-hmm.
He needs to go up, but he can't go up because there's nobody to replace him.
Mm-hmm.
The quickest way to move up is to train your replacement.
Boom.
Yep. That is 100% accurate.
Okay. So there's some
find
good advice
somebody
there,
else
Cody.
who's curious. Find somebody else who's curious and say, hey, you want to learn this? Teach them so that replaces you. You can't go anywhere if there's nobody to replace you. You're too valuable in the spot that you're at. Right. And I think a lot of us get stuck in, it's my employer's job to move me up. It's my employer's job to train my replacement. You got to take some ownership of that too. And I think, you really need to hire for curiosity. Seek out people that have curiosity. Don't look for somebody who has all the right answers. Your bad sign is somebody who already knows it all. That's the worst sign. It's the last thing I want to hear in a job interview. I am 100% confident in all of my knowledge and abilities.
Yeah.
You're not getting the next level interview.
Absolutely. Strong advice there, Cody. So be looking for that person that you can bring into train so you can move on and do something. Or maybe it's time to be thinking about a different aspect of our career. I mean, you look at the 3 of us on screen right now. Probably 5 years ago, none of us would have said we would be where we are right now.
Right. That is right.
Okay. That's the beauty of this industry, is that there are so many different avenues to take. And when you get to those plateaus, it is time to reassess your career. But look for these partnerships. Look for our distributors that are building educational outreaches, that are working with contractors and working with their local schools. Now that you've already got your associates in HVAC, what's that next step? Have you ever considered property maintenance management, where you're bringing in other curriculums along the way. Maybe it's a perfect opportunity to stop by and do a class at your local Chadwell and explore, like, what are some of my other options out there? Because the jobs are there. I promise you that.
I'd like to add to that, Clifton. I don't know if you're familiar with it. I know Howard is the HVACcareermap.org. I'm going to
It's
put
a
it in the
great
chat.
spot.
And if you need a career change, it'll pathway something else. Property maintenance is in there, if I remember right. Design and engineering. I dumped it in the chat, so it should be there.
Yep.
You're going to pull it up on the screen. Please do.
Yeah, I was
But
gonna
it's
share.
really great resource. But you know what? I encourage you, Cody, to connect with Nichole.
Yeah, because this
Man,
is really helping you see some of those options about where you can move along the way. Because a lot of times we get stuck. We don't know what those paths are. Now, as educators, it is our job as mentors to be able to help show people the career path. Sometimes we have to go look for it for ourselves.
Right.
And if you're asking for guidance and you're not getting it, or you're not getting the feedback, not all leaders want to give you real feedback.
True.
A lot of people are afraid of doing that, and especially in today's litigious society. They're afraid of being honest, that that's going to come back, that they're not allowed to be honest, that that's going to get them into some sort of legal situation. And so it's hard to mentor people. It's hard to manage and lead people, because you do have a lot of things that you have to do to protect yourself. So, you know, also be willing to take an honest look at yourself. Is the reason that you're not getting that positive feedback because there may be gaps in what you think or maybe it's a perception that needs to be corrected, because their perception is going to end up being your reality.
Howard and I have this conversation regularly. All right. So when we start talking about these partnerships, like, how does a contractor partner with a distributor for training? Like, what are the steps? Because I'm sure
So
there's going to be contractors out
yeah,
there.
it's with the contract base, it's a little bit different, because our customer base is actually our property management companies and our property management partners.
Mhm.
And so that's an advantage of utilizing Chadwell as your supplier and being
Ah.
our customer. This is an extra
Mm.
benefit that comes with being our customer. So being a Chadwell Supply customer, we are exclusively multifamily.
Yep.
So that is one thing that is different between us and some of the other suppliers that are out there. We don't dip our toes into other industries. It is squarely multifamily. So working in the multifamily industry, we become that primary resource, but we are always looking to partner with contractors and manufacturers to supplement the education program. If you know what you're doing and you want to teach somebody else how to do it, there's an opportunity for you to come work for me, and put that out there. Maybe it's a contract basis, maybe it's a full-time job, right? But we're looking for those people who can help broaden the program. And we do want to reach a lot of different people. And maybe you're not happy as an HVAC tech in the field. Okay, come find a job in property management. There's lots of
Hmm.
them. But I think collaborative partnerships make all the difference in the world. We have a very strong relationship with our main supplier, and it really opens up doors. It opens up opportunities. Um, you know, our trainers are given opportunities for additional continuing education and training, working with manufacturers, and our partnership with ESCO, and we're able to we offer lots of ESCO programs, and we're continue to develop and grow that. In our industry in particular, there is a lack of HVAC knowledge. There's a big lack. And so that's where we're seeing a lot of these property management companies, where they would traditionally rely on their maintenance technicians to make those HVAC repairs in-house. They're actually having to go contract out. Well, there's a shortage of contractors too. So
Yeah.
doesn't really help solve our problem.
Sure. You bring up an interesting point with the collaborative partnerships between the manufacturers. You're really a part of that pipeline. I've been seeing that in the HVAC distributorship side. It's really intriguing to see that through the property maintenance, because I hadn't thought about that. We have a lot of property maintenance that have kind of adopted the National HVACR Education Conference as their annual conference for the last 3 years. That's been growing a lot. And we recognize it's because of that need of helping build those, strengthen those partnerships between manufacturers, the distributor, and the contractor, because you are providing that pipeline of technicians to the industry. And Osvaldo, I appreciate you joining us from Belize.
Wow.
Yeah, Osvaldo's a technician in Belize that joins us very regularly to learn and learn how to improve himself. It's the reason we have these type of conversations, is that it's not just students that are needing to find their career path. It's not just educators that are trying to cater their program to the demand from the local contractors. It's technicians in the field like Osvaldo and like Cody, who are out in the field going, what is next? As an industry, we don't do a very good job of showing the career development path. That's why it's so important for these partnerships to be able to have these conversations with your Chadwell universities, to have these conversations with the equipment manufacturers, to find out what is the right pipeline. The jobs are out there. Getting the proper training and building that resume is where we're having to spend more time as an industry.
And one class may not be your end all be all,
That's
but
right.
it's a step. It's one step at a time. And I do think, when you're looking for employment, yes, you want a job. Yes, you need a job. And I've coached my son on this. You're interviewing them too. How are they going to help you achieve your goals? And what programs, and stay hungry. What programs do they have that's going to help you to continue your growth? And what are those growth opportunities? And I think, like you said, we got to do a better job of showing what our options are. And it's, unfortunately, due to the lack of the skilled trades that are out there, there's a really big shortage in labor. You're going to tread water, because I can't move you to something else, because then who's going to do the work you're doing? I need somebody to fill that spot. And it's an unfortunate reality. For me to keep my business moving forward, I can't necessarily keep you moving upward.
Maybe it's the redevelopment of mentorship culture within the industries. Wouldn't that be nice?
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's how we do it.
Would be great.
Mm.
I mean, I learned everything I learned from a mentor. I mean, I'm sure my mentor forgot more about apartment maintenance and construction than I'll probably ever learn.
Right.
And most people say he was a very grumpy, aggressive guy, right? Rest his soul, he has passed on from cancer, but he was rough around the edges, like old school tough guy, and a lot of people were intimidated by him.
Mm-hmm.
And for whatever reason, he took a shine to me. He appreciated my perspective, he appreciated my gumption, and he mentored me, and I milked it for every piece of information and opportunity to spend time to get information and to learn things. And you can't get intimidated out of your own way. You've got to take some risks and push the envelope. I mean, guys, a female in maintenance, that in and of itself is a challenge. I don't like to throw that out there too often.
No, you should.
No, you should. Absolutely.
I mean, for what I've always had to be 10 times better than the next guy, because, maybe I don't have the physical strength to take that washer up the stairs on the dolly by myself. Well, that's a disadvantage, but I can tell you what's wrong with it, and you can't. So there are other things that I'm also a little bit smaller. I could fit into some of these custom HVAC closets where the guys couldn't get in there, and I could get in there, and I could braze, and they couldn't even get in the door. So, there are advantages and disadvantages, but you have to just say, I'm not going to let other perceptions limit me. I'm going to decide what I'm going to do next, and I'm going to figure out how to do it. Did I always get what I wanted when I wanted? No. Did I have to, fall on my face and skin my knees a couple of times? Yeah. But it's getting back up. It's the old saying. It's not how you fall off the horse. It's how many times you get back on. It's reality. You have to keep pushing. And you also have to consider the employers. Not all employers are created equal. You have to make some decisions on what company culture works for you and what doesn't. And a lot of people said, and I've used this phrase a lot since being at Chadwell, the grass is always greener, right? No, the grass is greener where it's watered, and I'm where I'm at because we have a full-blown irrigation system.
There you go.
And
That's a great way to look at it.
It is. It's a great perspective.
So, interview the company too. Don't just, be desperate for a job. I know a lot of us are. A lot of us want to find employment, but also think next step. Don't just limit yourself to, that first paycheck.
And you raise a good point as far as interviewing the company. When you go into your HR interviews, is they finish off. So, do you have any questions for us? You better darn well have some questions for them.
Do some research. What do they say their mission statement is? What is their vision?
Yeah.
Ask questions about that. Does that align with how you operate? If it doesn't, and you know that right out of the box, you're not going to be happy there.
Yeah.
It's a great way to look at it. If you're a student, you're a technician looking for a people first focused culture, that is the questions that you need to be asking of the environment that you're in, because there are these environments. I mean, this is the proof. This is an educational program that is catered to contractors, to industry partners that are built upon the people first approach. And as educators of any type, we have to understand that with culture shifts, sometimes we don't always understand the culture underneath of us, or two cultures underneath of us, or I'm getting to the age now where three cultures underneath of me.
This is true.
And that we have to understand that what we are looking for is those people traits. And if we can find ones that are interested in learning, they may not even be interested in learning mechanical yet. If they're interested in learning, it's worth investing into. And we need to become a mentor of those minds. Fun stuff.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
All right. So looking forward, we are going to see shifts in education. We are going to see a stronger relationship between manufacturers and schools and distributors and contractors for the training pipeline. Now, you can spend all time you want on social media hearing about the disorganization within that pipeline that has been in the past. And you will also stand back and see that is changing and that is shifting. It was very apparent this year at our conference. We had 8 different equipment manufacturers all saying the same thing. We want to be a part of your pipeline. We want to be a part of your training. We want to be able to assist this entire pipeline from manufacturer all the way through the contractor. And we all have our parts to do in that. Nichole, tell us more about the university platform that you have, the Chadwell University.
So we do have our Chadwell University, where each individual learner will have their own profile. It's a full learning management system, but based on our partnership level with our customers, different customers qualify for different benefits, right? Because it's a benefit of being a customer, and the more loyal that customer is to us, then the locks more and more benefits for them. And so that may be more of an in-person and more extended classes, right? Like the micro learning is going to be for 60-minute sessions, 90-minute sessions. We don't want to keep you trapped online sitting still. It's just not the nature of the maintenance guy, right?
Right.
So if you want to click on that course catalog, that'll kind of give you an idea of what we're talking about here. We separate everything out into a category, right? So we're looking at, you want to jump down to the table of contents, which I think is page 3. And that's going to break down the categories. So there's where you have your tracks. So each one of those has a track within them. Just click the HVAC track. If you click on the word HVAC, it'll.
Well, look at that, an interactive PDF.
Ooh, yeah. I'm fancy.
Okay. I'm digging it.
I'm not fancy. My marketing department's just really good. So this is how we build it. So these sessions run consecutive, one after the other, but they continue in this loop. So yes, there is a building upon each other, but they also still stand alone. So let's say I missed session 1 and 2, but I jumped in on 3, I'm still going to be able to follow along, right? And then I can maybe I go to 4, 5. Oh, now I go back and I can start 1 later. But
Very
it'll just
modular.
continue to cycle, right? We
Mhm.
do, and like I said, this is about our what I would consider the 100 level, right? And we are going to be adding on and building more, and depending on our customers and the benefits that they have accumulated and the rewards that they have for their loyalty towards us, we might be doing 3 or 4 of these sessions at a time, a half a day training,
Really?
whatever it may be. But I could tell you one thing that we definitely are working on right now that's not in this HVAC menu, and that's PTAX.
Yep.
So that's something that's going to be added, right? We're going to be continuing to develop this. One of the things that
Ooh.
I have seen specifically is that this transition to A2Ls
Yeah.
is highlighting the lack of HVAC knowledge in our industry. Because everybody's like, well, I need A2L
Yes.
training. It needs to be hands-on. I need A2L. No, nothing's different. It's just a
That's
different
right.
refrigerant. I'm using a different flavor of jelly, but I'm still making a peanut butter and jelly
That's a
sandwich.
yeah,
That's
100%.
exactly right. Yeah, Howard always
So
says, whatever the next whatever the next refrigerant is, doesn't matter if it's milk, Kool-Aid, an R or something. We're just here to teach you what it looks
yeah,
like.
exactly. So yeah,
Mm.
so that is our lovely university, and I appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit about it.
Yeah, this is
And
great.
we have partnered with ESCO and HVACR Excellence. We are offering, and it's probably maybe at the bottom of this, we are offering an AC Essentials course where it's an actual AC certification that is recognized nationally by HVACR Excellence. We're doing 3 half days of training where we're going into refrigeration principles. We're going into thermodynamics. We're exploring all of the aspects, all of the components in the system, the different refrigerants, the different oils, right? All the processes, because the EPA is done. It's just a certification on handling refrigerant,
That's
and
right.
it is often misconstrued. Oh, you have EPA certification. That means you know what to do with AC. No, it does not. And in fact, the EPA assumes a working knowledge of refrigeration principles. So if you don't have any experience and you haven't done anything before, and you haven't done the classroom and you haven't done anything in field, you're going to struggle on that EPA exam.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I completely agree. Fantastic stuff. A lot of great information here. I encourage everyone to dive in, learn a little bit more about what's happening at Chadwell Supply and the relationships that we are helping build here as a training partner. What's next up in the world of Nichole Curl?
Well, I think the next big thing that's up for me is the National Apartment Association Apartmentalize, which is the national gathering in our industry. It's our largest expo and trade show. I'll be presenting 2 different breakout sessions there,
Awesome.
and we'll be available on the floor with our booth as well. We're really excited for that. That'll be in New Orleans this year, June 18th through the 21st, I think, that week.
Nice.
So not looking forward to being in New Orleans in June. I mean, I'm already in Houston. It's not a big change for me, but it's nice to get out of town and hang out with my peers and my coworkers and my colleagues in the industry. And I look forward to seeing a lot of my buddies out there.
Fantastic. And where can we learn more about Chadwell Supply and Chadwell University?
So it's just chadwellsupply.com. And if you want to learn Chadwell University, it's chadwellsupply.com/university. If you forget that /university, you just go to services. We're considered a service.
Sure.
So under services, you'll find Chadwell University as well.
Very cool. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Todd. Glad you hung out with us today. It's some fun stuff.
Oh yeah.
And we appreciate everybody spending time. We know it's busy, but we all are building our professional development plan together here, 1 week at a time. Next week, we will be at Skills USA. I have no idea where I'm going to be broadcasting this time next Thursday. I might be in the parking lot. I might be at the local UA 72 in Atlanta. I might be pulled over on the side of the interstate, but I will see you all next week. And I appreciate you all joining us on Did You Know, the ESCO HVAC show. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.